Teenagers battling stress may in fact be using childhood comforts to get them through it. 74% of teens report having more than one symptom of stress: feeling irritable, lying awake at night, maybe getting headaches. In a New York Times article, when a teenager's coping mechanism is SpongeBob, psychologist and CBS News contributor Lisa Damour discovers how teens are handling some of their issues. And Lisa, good enough to join us to discuss what she found. And it's fascinating. The power of nostalgia gets into the teenage years. What a remarkable thing that you found here.
I found it just from asking teenagers what they do when they are stressed. And initially, I was surprised when they started volunteering. 17-year-olds volunteering. Oh, we watched The Lion King, or, oh, I go back and I reread all my Harry Potters. But as I kept hearing it, I thought, this is genius on their part. They take themselves back, and I have a great quote from a girl in the article who says, you take yourself back to a time when the hardest decision you had is, what crayon should I use to color my dress in a self-portrait? And it makes so much sense that sometimes they have to sort of go back and recharge in order to go forward.
And we were just talking, I try to encourage my girls to do something like, pull out the markers and paint a picture before you get on tablets. I feel like every time you and I sit down to talk about this, whatever, it always comes back to maybe fighting the screen wars with our children. What impact does this have on what it is that we're talking about here?
I think it has a pretty big impact. Social media, which is often what kids are doing online, is neither good nor bad, but it is everywhere teenagers go. So it's good in that it lets them connect, it lets them be playful, it lets them have fun together. That's fine. It also means that the stressful aspects of adolescence never go away from a teen's day. Yeah. They are looking at one another, they are comparing how they look, they are seeing who's more or less connected. And when we were teenagers, we had time off from that. Yeah. We did that during the school day, but we went home and we stopped.
It's interesting. Put it another way, it's quantifying popularity in new and never-ending ways, and the overwhelming stresses that must level. What then, if I'm a parent, and I mean, I guess it depends on if we're talking about a 13-year-old or a 17-year-old, because that's a chasm. But what should I be looking for when it comes to stress with my children? Maybe outside the norm of what is a stressful experience.
Sure. So we want to start with the assumption that there will be stress in adolescence. Stress is normal, it's part of growth, it's part of life. Stress in and of itself is not a problem. Yeah. What we worry about is when teenagers don't have effective strategies for bouncing back from stress, or they have self-destructive strategies for managing stress. Then we worry. We don't want to see stress day after day after day from which a teen never recovers.
And the idea, and I know you got to this in your piece as well, the idea that there are two sets of problems, two sets of stresses, the ones that we can in fact proactively deal with and do something about, overcome, conquer, and then the ones we have to sit with and accept.
Yeah, and accept is a key word in this. I think one of the ways that psychologists break this down, and there's a great psychologist named Bruce Compass at Vanderbilt who has studied coping in teens for a lot of his career. And when I was talking with him, he said, what parents can do to be helpful is help figure out what kind of stress the teen is facing. Is it something that they could tackle? Like, okay, you're stressed by an upcoming test, let's start studying. Or is it something that they can do nothing about, like ongoing social drama in their class? So they have to accept that that is the reality, and then find ways to distract themselves, find activities they like, do things that let them recharge, and go back to the stress that they cannot manage.
Is there a takeaway for us? I'm always amazed at the dynamism and the adaptability of my children.
Yes.
And not a day goes by where I don't find myself thinking, God, I wish I was like that. Did you find, if nothing else, there are takeaways for us in experiencing our children dealing with stress?
For me, the takeaway for parents is not to worry if you stumble upon your 17-year-old reading Captain Underpants, right? That is what I want parents to hear. This is normal, it is quirky, but it is something that teenagers do. And another way to think about it is, well, teenagers also do other things to cope with stress, like smoke marijuana. Yeah. So if you consider the alternatives, watching reruns, shooting layups are actually very effective coping strategies.
Look, we've all done it. The simple repetition in the days in which we live, watching somebody, hit a golf ball or fix a house, sometimes is the very best thing of all.
Absolutely.
Captain Underpants, that's good. Maybe I'll try that one. Okay. Lisa, as always, it's just endlessly fascinating, your work. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.